12 minutes from now, you will know exactly which line on a new car purchase agreement is the one most dealerships hope you sign without reading what it is actually paying for, and the precise sentence you can say at the desk that, in many cases, makes it disappear. The fluorescent light over the F&I office hums at a frequency you only notice when you sit down in the chair, and the printer behind the desk is already warming up before you have looked at a single number. There is a smell to that room: new plastic, fresh carpet glue, the faint sweetness of someone's leftover coffee. The folder slides across the desk. You open it. Somewhere on page 3 or 4, in a stack of line items that look like they belong on a receipt for a hospital stay, sits a number that has no business being there, and most new car buyers in any given month sign it without question. We are going to walk through 13 facets of how that number gets onto the page, what it is really for, and what consumer protection groups have been quietly flagging about each one for years. Item 1. The $899 prep line. Sometimes it is called dealer prep, sometimes vehicle preparation, sometimes lot prep or new vehicle prep. The number floats between $300 and $1,200 depending on the brand and the region, with $800 or $900 being the modern sweet spot. The line is presented as if it covers the work of getting your car ready for delivery, washing it, removing the protective plastic from the seats and the steering wheel, topping off fluids, pulling the shipping caps off the wheels. All things that, in almost every case, were already done by the Porter staff in under an hour as part of normal dealer overhead, the same overhead that is supposed to be baked into the markup on the vehicle itself. Consider Nina Petrov, a 31-year-old veterinary surgical technician from a snowy stretch of suburban Minneapolis. She walked into a dealership on a Saturday afternoon to pick up a compact sedan she had test-driven the week before, expecting to be in and out in an hour. The fluorescent overheads in the F&I office hummed at exactly the frequency she remembered from her clinic, the kind of buzz you stop hearing after 20 minutes. The prep line on her contract read $949. The mechanical decode is plain. Prep work on a new car involves removing the shipping film from the seats, pulling the wheel covers, washing the exterior, topping off washer fluid, and running a brief operational check. The porter who did this work was already on the dealership payroll. The labor cost to the dealer was somewhere around $45 in actual wages. The line item charged Nina more than 20 times that figure. On the purchase agreement, the line appeared as DL or prep with no breakdown of hours or parts. The contrast pair is between a dealer who lists prep at $0 because they consider it overhead and a dealer who lists prep at nearly $1,000 because they consider it profit. The honest counterexample I keep returning to is a small family-run dealership in southern Wisconsin whose owner removed the prep line from his contracts in 2018 after his daughter, an attorney, audited the books and pointed out the work was already paid for. The sensory anchor for Nina was the way the dealership air smelled faintly of pine cleaner and microwaved popcorn at 4 in the afternoon, the kind of smell that makes you stop reading carefully. Item 2. The PDI rebrand. PDI stands for Pre-Delivery Inspection, and on many sales contracts, the $800 prep fee gets quietly renamed as a PDI fee. Same money, different acronym. The PDI is the inspection the manufacturer requires the dealership to perform on every new vehicle before delivery, and here is the part that matters. The manufacturer typically reimburses the dealership for that inspection out of the wholesale price of the car. The dealership has already been paid to do the PDI by the automaker, charging the customer a second time for the same work under a renamed line item is the trick that several consumer protection groups have flagged in published reports for more than a decade. Item 3. The destination charge duplicate. The destination charge is the legitimate fee for shipping the vehicle from the factory or the port to the dealership, and it is printed on the manufacturer's window sticker, the Monroney label in plain language. That number is what it costs to ship your car. It is not optional and it is not negotiable because every dealer pays it. The trick is that some sales contracts add a separate line for transportation, freight, or delivery in addition to the destination charge already on the Monroney. Same shipment, same truck, 2 line items. A careful bear who compares the contract against the window sticker will sometimes find the destination charge listed twice under different names, with different totals, hoping nobody adds them up. Item 4. The dealer dock fee. This one varies wildly by state and region, ranging from under $100 in markets where consumer protection laws cap it, to over $1,000 in markets where they do not. The dock fee is presented as the cost of processing your paperwork, filing the title, registering the vehicle, handling the loan documents. In reality, much of that work is automated, takes minutes per file, and is performed by salaried staff whose time is already covered by the dealership's general operations. The dock fee is, in many markets, pure profit, and in some regions it is one of the single highest margin line items on the entire deal. Augusto Salinas, a 43-year-old roofing crew foreman from a desert town outside Albuquerque, learned about the dock fee the hard way when he bought a used pickup at a small lot during what should have been a quick weekend trip. The dealer was friendly, the truck was clean. The handshake felt firm. The dock fee on the contract read $695. Augusto, who tracks every nail and every shingle on his job sites with the precision of an accountant, asked what the dock fee actually paid for. The salesperson said it covered paperwork processing. Augusto asked for the breakdown in writing. The breakdown never came. The mechanical decode is that document fees in unregulated states are largely arbitrary, set by the dealership at whatever level the market will tolerate. In Augusto's state, no cap existed. The line item appeared on the contract as dock fee with the dollar amount and nothing else. The contrast pair is between a state where dock fees are statutorily capped at $75 and a state where they routinely exceed $700, even though the underlying work is identical. An honest counterexample is a regional credit union in his county that, when financing the same vehicle, processed the title and registration paperwork for $14.90 as part of normal loan servicing. The sensory anchor for Augusto was the desert wind clicking the metal lot flags outside the F&I window, a sound that punctuated every silence in the negotiation. Item 5. The nitrogen tires line. This one shows up on the contract as a pre-installed feature, usually in the range of $100 to $300, and it represents filling the tires with nitrogen instead of regular air. The theoretical argument is that nitrogen molecules are slightly larger than oxygen molecules and therefore leak through the tire rubber more slowly, helping maintain consistent pressure. The practical reality is that ambient air is already roughly 78% nitrogen. The leak rate difference for the remaining 21% oxygen is measured in fractions of a PSI per month, and a $1 visit to the air pump at any gas station closes the gap. Paying $200 to upgrade from the air your tires were going to fill themselves with is, in most cases, a charge for a service whose benefit is statistically difficult to measure outside of professional motorsport. Item 6 is the one I want you to remember as we keep going, because it is the hinge that most of the rest of this list swings on, and we will be coming back to it before we close: the etch insurance pitch. Window etching, also called VIN etching or anti-theft etching, is a service where the dealer uses an acid pen or a laser to engrave your vehicle identification number onto each piece of window glass. The pitch is that it deters thieves, who avoid cars with etched glass because reselling the windows becomes difficult. The cost on the contract can run from $200 to $600, sometimes more. The actual cost to the dealer for the etching kit is often under $15 per car, performed by a porter about 20 minutes. The insurance portion of the pitch, which promises a payout if the etched vehicle is ever stolen, is frequently underwritten by a third-party policy with such narrow conditions and short coverage windows that the actual claim rate is vanishingly small. Hold that hinge in mind, we will get back to it. Item 7. The paint and fabric protection package. This typically appears as a combined line for $300 to $700 and promises a sealant on your paint that resists scratches and a fabric treatment on your interior that resists stains. The paint portion is often a coat of a polymer sealant that, while real, costs the dealer a small fraction of the charge and provides protection roughly comparable to a good detailing wax you can apply at home for under $50. The fabric portion is frequently a spray-on treatment whose protection wears off in months and which any retail product from a hardware store can match for under $20 per application. Item 8. The extended warranty add-on, presented during the F&I closing as if it must be decided right now, today, in this office, before you leave with the keys. The reality is that almost every legitimate extended service contract can be purchased at any point during the manufacturer's original warranty period, often for substantially less money, from third-party providers or from other dealerships that compete on price. The urgency in the F&I office is a sales technique, not a coverage requirement. Buyers who feel pressured to decide in the moment frequently sign up for the dealer's in-house contract at the highest markup the system will allow. Item 9. The gap insurance markup. Gap insurance, which covers the difference between what you owe on the loan and what the car is worth if it is totaled, is a legitimate product, and for many buyers with low down payments on rapidly depreciating vehicles, it makes real financial sense. The trick is the markup. The dealer's gap policy, sold inside the F&I office, frequently costs $800 to $1,200 rolled into the loan. The same coverage, purchased separately through your own auto insurance carrier or a credit union, often runs to $100 to $400 paid up front. Same product, 3 to 5 times the price, depending on where you buy it. Now back to that hinge. The Edge insurance pitch matters because it is the perfect example of how every add-on on this list is built. A real-sounding service, a real-sounding benefit, a price that is many times the actual cost, and a presentation that frames the charge as already applied, already installed, already decided, so that refusing it feels like undoing something rather than declining something. Every other line on this contract uses some version of that same architecture. Once you see the architecture, you can spot it in 20 seconds on any deal sheet. Item 10. The Nitrogen Tires Twin, which is the wheel locks line. Wheel locks are the small specialized lug nuts that require a unique key to remove, designed to deter wheel theft. They are sometimes a legitimate option, particularly on vehicles with desirable aftermarket wheels. The trick is that many contracts list them at $200 to $300 installed, when the actual set retails for $30 to $50 at any parts store and installs in 5 minutes with a tire iron. Wait, let me correct myself on that last detail. The install actually requires the same lug wrench that came in your trunk, plus the specific key that ships with the wheel locks. 5 minutes is roughly right. The markup is the issue, not the difficulty. Item 11. The Tire and Wheel Protection Plan, which is a separate product from the wheel locks despite often being sold in the same breath. This plan promises to cover the cost of replacing tires and wheels damaged by potholes, road hazards, or curb impacts. The cost is frequently $600 to $900 rolled into the loan. The actual claim rates and payout limits, when you read the contract carefully, are restrictive enough that the plan rarely pays out anywhere close to its purchase price over the typical ownership period. Your existing auto insurance policy, with comprehensive coverage, may already cover some of the same damage at a deductible that comes out cheaper than the plan itself. Item 12. The Advertising Fee or Market Adjustment Line. This one shows up in hot markets when demand exceeds supply, and it is presented as the dealership's contribution to regional advertising, sometimes labeled an ADM or additional dealer markup. The fee can range from $1,000 to $20,000 depending on the vehicle and the moment. There is no service being delivered for this money. It is the dealership's profit margin written onto a line in markets where they believe buyers will pay because the next dealer down the road is charging the same. In softer markets, this line disappears entirely, which is the clearest possible signal of what it actually represents. Item 13, and this is the climax, the single biggest dealer prep fee scam. On the whole list, the one that swallows more money than any individual line item above, the bundled add-on package. This is when the dealership combines 5 or 6 of the items we just walked through into a single line on the contract labeled something like protection package or premium delivery package or owner benefits package, priced at $2,000 to $4,000 all in. Presented as a single number, it slides past most buyers who would have questioned each component individually. The bundling is not a discount, the bundling is a camouflage. The package is almost always more profitable for the dealer than selling each piece separately because the beer never sees the line item breakdown that would have triggered the individual conversations about whether each one is worth it on its own. Consumer protection groups have flagged this practice in industry reports for years, and the advice is consistent. Make the dealer unbundle every package on the contract into its individual line items before you sign anything. If they refuse, that is your answer. Leela Faraday, a 49-year-old elementary school principal from a coastal town in Oregon, walked into a dealership in March to buy a midsize SUV for her family. She had brought her tablet, a printed copy of the Monroney sticker, and a list of every line item she had read about online. She was as prepared as a beer can be. The F&I manager presented her with a contract that contained a single, line-labeled premium owner protection package, priced at $3,295. Leela asked for the unbundled breakdown. The manager hesitated, then printed a second sheet that listed the components: nitrogen, edge, paint and fabric, wheel locks, and a tire and wheel plan. Leela went through each one, declined them individually, and the package came off the contract entirely. The mechanical decode is that bundled packages exist because individual decisions invite individual refusals, while a single-line decision invites a single yes. The contract typically shows the bundled price with no breakdown unless the beer specifically requests it. The contrast pair is between a beer who treats the package as one decision and a beer who treats it as 5. The Honest Shop Counterexample is a regional dealership chain in the Pacific Northwest that, after a state attorney general inquiry, began printing the unbundled breakdown on every contract by default. The sensory anchor for Leela was the cold ocean light coming through the showroom windows that afternoon, a flat silver glow that made every printed number look slightly sharper than usual. Before we get to what you should do tomorrow morning, I want to spend some time on the psychology of the F&I office, because understanding the room is half the battle. The room itself is designed, it is small. The chairs are positioned so the beer faces the F&I manager across a desk, with the door behind the beer, and the manager's monitor angled so you cannot quite see the screen. The lighting is bright fluorescent overhead, which research has linked to faster decision-making and lower attention to detail compared to softer lighting. There is rarely a clock on the wall. There is rarely a window. The beer has, by the time they reach this room, already spent 2 to 4 hours on the dealership lot, often through a mealtime, often with kids in tow or a spouse running out of patience. The beer is tired, the beer wants to leave with the car. The beer has, in their own mind, already mentally taken delivery. The decision to buy the car was made an hour ago in the salesperson's cubicle. Everything in the F&I office is structured to feel like paperwork rather than negotiation. That framing is the trick. The numbers on the page are presented as if they are fixed. The monthly payment is presented as if the total contract price is locked. The add-ons are presented as if they are bundled with the financing, which means the beer sees the additional $8,000 in add-ons as an extra $20 per month over 72 months, not as $8,000 in actual cost. $20 per month sounds small, $8,000 sounds large. The math is exactly the same, the framing changes which number the beer processes emotionally. Every time the F&I manager mentions a price as a monthly figure, mentally retranslated to the total dollars over the life of the loan. That mental retranslation is the closest thing to a superpower a beer can carry into that room. There is also the matter of the menu presentation, which has become standard practice across most modern F&I offices. The menu is a printed sheet, sometimes a digital screen, that shows the beer for tiers of protection packages: bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Each tier bundles a combination of the add-ons we discussed earlier, with the price difference between tiers presented in monthly payment terms. The structure is designed to anchor the beer toward the middle of the menu because most people, when presented with four options, gravitate to the second from the top. This is documented consumer behavior, refined in the F&I training industry over decades. The bronze tier is intentionally weak, so the beer rejects it. The platinum tier is intentionally expensive, so the beer rejects it. The silver and gold tiers are where the dealership wants you to land. Knowing that the menu itself is the manipulation lets you ignore it entirely. The fifth option, which is never on the printed menu but always available, is no package at all. Ask for that fifth option by name. I want to tell a story about a man I will call Reggie Voss, who worked for 14 years in F&I offices at 3 different dealerships into different states before he changed careers. He told me the saddest deals he ever wrote were not the ones with the biggest profits. They were the ones where the beer was clearly stretching to afford even the base vehicle, and the dealership's profit on the deal depended almost entirely on the add-ons piled onto the back of the loan. He described a young couple, both school teachers, who came in to buy a modest compact sedan. The vehicle itself was priced reasonably. The salesperson did honest work on the trade-in. By the time the couple reached Reggie's office, they were proud of the deal they had negotiated on the car. Reggie said his job in that moment was to make back the dealership's missing margin through the F&I products, and the training he had received was explicit about how to do it. He closed the deal. The couple drove off with an extra $8,000 in add-ons stretched over 72 months. He left the industry a year later. There is a piece of the F&I process that deserves its own attention, which is the question of timing. Federal regulations and most state laws permit a beer to back out of certain add-on products within a defined window after purchase, often 3 days, sometimes longer. This window is rarely volunteered by the F&I office. It is buried in the fine print of the add-on contracts themselves. If you have already signed a deal and you are reading this and realizing that some of the items we discussed appeared on your contract, do not assume you are stuck with them. Pull out your contract, read each add-on document separately. Look for the cancellation clause. Look for the timing window. Look for the refund formula. Many add-ons are fully refundable within a short window after purchase. Almost all of them can be canceled at any point, with at least a partial refund, by sending a written cancellation request to the address listed in the contract. The cancellation right exists. The dealership does not advertise it. The decision to use it is yours. Let me also flag a piece about the trade-in side of the transaction, which often interacts with the prep fee scam in ways that compound the beer's losses. When you trade in a vehicle, the dealership offers you a price for it. That price is, in most cases, lower than what the vehicle would sell for at auction or in a private sale. The dealership offers you slightly more for your trade than they actually plan to, then makes the difference back, plus margin, by inflating the add-on package on the new vehicle. The beer feels good about the trade-in. The beer does not notice the add-on inflation. The defense against this is to negotiate the trade-in separately from the new vehicle purchase, ideally by getting independent offers from companies that buy used vehicles outright, and using those offers as a price floor against the dealership's trade-in number. There is one more issue worth raising, which is the matter of the spot delivery deal. Spot delivery, sometimes called a yo-yo sale, is when the dealership lets you drive the new vehicle home before the financing has actually been approved, with the understanding that the deal is contingent on final lender approval. Sometimes the financing does come through at the terms originally agreed. Sometimes it does not, and the beer is called back days or weeks later to sign a new contract at higher interest rates or with additional add-ons attached. By that point, the beer has emotionally taken ownership of the vehicle. The original trade-in has often already been sold. Walking away is much harder than it would have been on day one. If you are ever in a position where the dealership wants you to take delivery before the financing is finalized, the safest move is to wait. One final piece worth saying out loud: the dealership is not your enemy. The people who work there are, in most cases, decent professionals doing a job, whose compensation structure happens to reward certain behaviors that may not align with your financial interest. Understanding the architecture is not about hostility, it is about parity. When you walk in informed, the conversation changes from a one-sided sales pitch to a two-sided negotiation, and most dealerships, when they realize you understand the structure, will negotiate in good faith because their alternative is losing the deal entirely. Tomorrow morning, here is what I want you to do if you are reading this and you are about to walk into a dealership this weekend. You take a printed copy of the manufacturer's window sticker, the Monroney, with you to the desk. You sit down in the F&I office. You ask, in a calm, even voice, for the dealer to itemize every single line on the purchase agreement that is not on the window sticker. Every prep fee, every PDI line, every dog fee, every nitrogen, every etch, every paint and fabric, every wheel lock, every protection plan, every bundled package, every market adjustment, itemized, each one with its own price next to it. Then you say, also in a calm, even voice, this exact sentence: I am willing to pay the price on the window sticker plus the destination charge plus tax and registration. I am not willing to pay for any of these additional line items. If the dealership wants to keep my deal, those lines come off. If they do not come off, I will be leaving today without signing, and I will be visiting the other dealerships in the region with the same offer. You do not raise your voice, you do not argue. You do not negotiate the individual items. You make the statement, you stop talking. You let the silence in the room do the work. In a healthy percentage of cases, the manager comes back from the back office with a revised contract. In some cases, they do not, and you leave and you go to the next dealership. Either way, you have left the chair with your wallet intact, your dignity intact, and the small, quiet knowledge that you saw the architecture and you said no to it. Drop a comment with the prep fee, doc fee, or bundled package amount you have seen on a recent purchase agreement, the number on the page, the name they gave it, and whether you signed it or walked. Somebody else is sitting in that F&I chair tomorrow afternoon, and your comment with that specific number might be the thing that gives them the courage to ask for the itemized breakdown before the printer starts running.